to Stephen A. before the break about what he was saying on Josh Allen. But Dan, I'm a woman of my word. The floor is yours.
Molly, I appreciate you. Stephen A., will you pick a side on Josh Allen? Because I've consistently heard you talk about Josh Allen when people say, like, who's got to go win it more and playoff and this and that. And you're always like, well, hold on. His defense gives up like 31 points a game and against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's got like 25 touchdowns and 3 interceptions against the Chiefs, and it's not his fault. But then you come on and say, well, in the divisional round, he's got a 1-3 record. So which one is it? What side is it on? 1-4. So what side is it on?
If you listen to the full context of the conversation, I was responding to Shannon saying that he was lights out in divisional rounds. So I said him statistically, yes, but the record is 1-4. I was only bringing that up because Shannon said divisional round instead of wild card, which is where he's 5-1. That's all I was saying. I wasn't belaboring the point, but you're trying to parse that out because you're trying to make a point nobody cares about. So try something else.
Well, then my second question is, how were you not impressed by the Bills and what they did yesterday? Because you said
Well, I think that in the first half they were a bit sluggish. They came on strong in the second half. They were definitely able to run the ball effectively. But what I'm looking at them right now, Dio, is I'm saying is what we saw yesterday going to be enough to beat a Baltimore Ravens team.
Yes.
See, you're not going to have an advantage. It's not enough, Dan. It's not going to. Yesterday's performance is not going to be enough to beat the Baltimore Ravens.
All right.
They're not going. Hold it. Do you think that the Bills are going to have a 41-18 time of possession advantage? Do you think that they're going to beat the Ravens if they're in the red zone 5 times and only come up with 1 score? Do you think that's going to happen? Is that going to be good enough to beat the Baltimore Ravens?
If the Bills
that's not going to be it.
If the Bills play this coming weekend, first of all, I was way more impressed with what the Bills did and what the Ravens did because the Steelers were just so bad. If they play this weekend against the Ravens like they did yesterday, Buffalo wins that game. Absolutely.
Oh, Lord.
They were
not winning that game. So let me ask you, so hold on. What are they going to do with Derrick Henry? We saw in week 4 what they did against Derrick Henry, 199. What are they going to do with Lamar?
I'm not naive to the fact that they've got those guys. And obviously, you're playing a different opponent. What I'm saying is, if they collectively play next weekend like they did yesterday and control the game and dominate the game and have great run fits and tackle really well and Josh was sensational and they're 4 ball, why the faces? Why the faces?
And go 11 to 12 on third and go 11 to 12 on third down. And Josh Allen go 4 for 4 in the red zone. Yeah, they'll win. And a partridge in a pear tree. Is there anything else you want Buffalo to do to make sure they win this ball game? Because of Lamar.
But that's who they are, though. Like that's who that offense is.
Who are the Ravens? What do the Ravens do? Tell the people at home, what do the Ravens do? They possess the ball.
They're unbelievable. I'm not knocking Baltimore. I'm not knocking.
We're saying to you, you're not going to have a 41-18 time of possession advantage. You're not going to watch a Bo Nix go down and score on the first drive, okay? And then all of a sudden you're going to neutralize them the rest of the entire game. Baltimore's coming. Baltimore are not. They're not the Denver Broncos. So what I'm saying to you is that going up, I need to see more than I saw yesterday from Buffalo in order for them to beat Baltimore. I'll tell you that much.
Really? All right. I disagree. They scored 31 versus the number 2 defense in the NFL.
All right. Spicy in that vest today,
yeah,
Dan.
But that
all right, let's keep it rolling here, guys.
Baltimore is an offensive team. They're not a defensive team, Dan. You know that. Their defense is predicated on their offense and keeping their defense off the field.
Showing each and every down.
Lamar takes the snap. Throws complete. Hill has it. Touchdown, Ravens! As the Ravens have just dominated the Steelers here in the first half. He's in the 30, 20, leg race, gone! Touchdown, Derrick Henry! Oh, yes, sir. It's on to the divisional round for the Ravens.
I just don't know if any team wants to play the Baltimore Ravens right now.
All right, D. Wood, we touched on this one earlier. Do you believe the Steelers need to move on from Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, I said it. I said on Get Up that I feel like it was time. It was time to move on if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't say that lightly, Molly, because I have a lot of respect and admiration for what Mike Tomlin has done in Pittsburgh, the job that he's done, obviously being a Super Bowl champion as a head coach. The fact that he's never had a losing season in 18 seasons as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I go back to what Mike Tomlin, himself preaches all the time. The standard is the standard, okay? And what is the standard in Pittsburgh? Forget quarterback, forget systems and all that. What is the standard in Pittsburgh? It's championships. It's Super Bowls. We can't, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and Stephen A., you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you cannot be satisfied with, backdooring into the playoffs and then you're out in the first round. That is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a proud franchise. It's one of the few blue chip franchises that we have in the National Football League. And I'll say this. Andy Reid and the Philadelphia Eagles parted ways. Andy Reid was phenomenal coach with the Philadelphia Eagles, but they parted ways because after a while, it was time. The New England Patriots parted ways with the greatest head coach in the history of our sport. Why? Because it was time. And so when I look at Mike Tomlin and where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand at right now, I just see a team that's kind of meddling in mediocrity. Let's just be honest and be real about the situation. They have no quarterback. This defense is getting worse. They have no identity as a football team. And so for me, I just think as great of a coach as Mike Tomlin is, I think it's time for both sides to part ways now.
I don't know because I think if he had a quarterback, it would be significantly better. But he's played a role in them not having a quarterback. He's been a part of it. And so I can't sit here, Damian, and act like you're wrong because you're not. If the Steelers decided that, we need a new voice, they still got a lot of changes. It's not necessarily true that they should start with Mike Tomlin, but you were the head coach, and you have been the head coach. And since 2016, you haven't won a playoff game. And you're, one and done at least 5 or 6 times. You've got a situation right now, I'm looking at them. They're 0-5 in playoff games since 7-time Pro Bowler T.J. Watt joined the team. He's played in 4 or 5 of those games. They've lost all of them. How long are you going to keep T.J. Watt if you keep losing? If you're not making any noise in the postseason? And so at some point in time, we got to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and we got to say, excuse me, you got to upgrade stuff. You got to upgrade this roster. You got to make sure you got the pieces necessary to compete, particularly when you're looking at Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo. And there's no indication they're going anywhere because all of their 3 quarterbacks are relatively young. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and I'm like, what are you going to do? Steelers got to get something. And until that happens, I don't see success, which means that if they make a change, who can blame them?
Woody, you said something very interesting. You say, Stephen A., you can't be pleased with what Mike Tomlin has done over the last couple of years, especially mired in mediocrity. Let me tell you who is pleased. The Rooneys. They haven't fired a coach. They haven't fired a coach since I've been alive. I was born in '68, and guess what? They got hired Coach Nall in '69, and they've never fired a coach. Coach Nall retired. Bill Cowher retired. So in 50-plus years, they've never fired a coach. And because Mike Tomlin is winning just enough, the fan base is not up to, okay, we go into the playoffs, so we didn't have a losing season. But is that what is the goal, not to have a losing season, or the goal to get to and win a championship? Because over the last couple of years, the problem that we had, and we discussed this earlier, Woody, and it'd be interesting to see how you feel, they held on to Big Ben too long. Yep. They always hold on to their great players too long. That's what happened with that 70s team. And then everybody got old at once. And everybody started to retire at once. And guess what happened? You had a decade plus of mediocrity. Then Coach Cowher comes in, they win, he steps away. Mike Tomlin, they win early on. And over the last decade, they've been mired in mediocrity. It's really that simple. There's no other way around it. And I like Mike Tomlin. But just say, well, he hadn't had a losing season. That's not the goal of pro sports. It's not to have a losing season. The goal is to win championship if there's such thing at the end of the tunnel. And there is. It's called the Super Bowl. And over the last decade, the Steelers hadn't had a hillbilly heartbeat chance of getting to and winning the Super Bowl. And that's sad. And it's look, nobody really likes change, but it's inevitable. Because what happened is the Steelers has gotten comfortable with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has gotten comfortable with the Steelers. Comfort is a great place, but nothing will ever grow there. it's time to move on.
Yeah, listen. Yes, listen, Shannon. I talked about it. I think the Big Ben Roethlisberger, having succession plan after played a big part in that. I just want to throw one thing out there. Since the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin won a playoff game, Dan Quinn had taken a team to the Super Bowl, the Atlanta Falcons, got fired, went to the Dallas, been to Seattle, been the defensive coordinator. Been to the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, got hired by the Washington Commanders, and had won a playoff game, all before Mike Tomlin has won another playoff game, all in that period of time.
Interesting perspective. Yeah. What do you think?